You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob, and it is time for another Godzilla Q&A. We have some questions in the comment sections from a couple of videos that I'm going to answer. And then, and then you guys can leave your other questions in the comment section here for the next Godzilla Q&A. And we'll probably do them daily. Yeah, why not daily? You guys will probably run out of questions in the next week, right? All right. Before I get started, I want to let you guys know that if you want to interact a little bit more, there will be there are on a regular basis live streams that I do with obviously Joey, and the next one will be tomorrow, Wednesday at about 9:30 p.m. We also do them on Fridays at 9 and Saturdays at 9. Sometimes they do change, you know, if I decide I want to go out one night with some buddies, then obviously I reschedule. But for the most part, those are the 3 days we do our live streams. We do talk about other subjects as well, but you can come in, have some fun. Usually a good amount of people show up. We all have a blast. It's a good time. The podcast is usually about an hour. And if it goes longer, then that's fine. So, it's on Twitch. My Twitch link is in the description of this video. So you can just click that link, hit the follow button, and then when I go live, it'll notify you and you can come and join the party. So we're going to get started with some of the questions here. This first question comes from Ray Norman, and he's got a pretty big comment within this question, so I'll just get right to the question though. Said he's worried about the possibility of G fans that were hooked by a 2014 movie giving up their love for Godzilla due to the unbelievable kaiju that is Ghidorah. So basically he's asking, do I think whether or not people will lose interest in Godzilla due to Ghidorah being an unbelievable kind of monster, a three-headed monster, and so on and so forth? No. Ghidorah, on one hand, you could argue he's a tough sell. On the other hand, my argument in favor of him has been the fact that he is very dragon-like. And dragons are pretty popular here. I mean, there's not, first of all, we hardly see them in cinema. It's not like they're there all the time, but when they are there, they usually do pretty well. And, I think a monster like Ghidorah is very unique. He's got 3 heads. He's also gold. You know, this is arguing whether or not they'll even keep the design, but I don't think he'll be too unbelievable. It also depends on how they structure his backstory. Will they keep it as him being an alien, or whether they'll develop something new? One of the things I've always thought would be a good way to introduce him into America, mainstream through this movie, would be to argue in the movie that he is the first confirmation or discovery of real dragons. Like, he is the king of dragons. Like, the first actual discovery that dragons existed at some point. That would be one approach I would take that might help him be more believable. Then you got the 3-head factor. And there have been many different, I've said this before, there have been many different fantasy setting or fictional monsters or dragons that have multiple heads. You know, we have the Hydra, we have the Tiamat, you know, stuff like that. So I don't think the multiple head thing will be an issue. But I think it really all depends on how they develop his story. Yes, a 3-headed monster, his size is pretty unbelievable, but it's one of those things that if you do it right, you can make it extraordinarily awesome. And, you know, if they do it right, don't be surprised if Ghidorah becomes the selling point of this movie. You know what I mean? People will, you know, they love a good villain. If they make Ghidorah a good villain, with a good backstory, and they design him really well, he could be the showstopper of whatever movie he pops up in, whether it's the Godzilla King of the Monsters, or if he pops in the 3rd movie after that. So, next question comes from Bob Marshall. He wants to know if I think it's possible that we won't get Ghidorah in 2019 and save him for Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah, this has been another big speculation. That because when alright, so the deal is that I'm leaning more towards he is going to be in the next movie. That wasn't my belief in the offset, because I thought it would be too much. When they first announced the 3 monsters at Comic-Con, if we all remember, they said that the 3 monsters would be in future Godzilla sequels, which tells me that there's going to be more than one sequel and that he won't necessarily be in the 2nd movie. it's still a possibility he could be in the movie versus Kong, but I think that takes away from what people really want to see. People are going to want to see that Kong Godzilla showdown, and people want a definitive answer. I think that he will be in the third movie. I think it's going to be an indirect remake of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, where you're going to have Rodan and Godzilla showing down against each other. I don't know if Mothra is going to play the deciding monster to bring them together. It may just be a three-way free-for-all between them. And when Ghidorah finally shows up, they are the ones who are forced to band together to take him down. That's how I think the second movie is going to go. You could also look at it in such a way that he could be in the Kong vs. Godzilla movie, because if you have a movie with Mothra, Ghidorah, Godzilla, and Rodan all throwing down, to me, that kind of supersedes Kong vs. Godzilla in terms of awesomeness. So, I don't know. They might just also save Ghidorah they might tease him at the end of the Godzilla King of the Monsters movie, and they may save him for another movie they have planned that we don't know about, like Destroy All Monsters. I still think Destroy All Monsters is a movie that's very much on the table. So we'll see. I'm going to say he's going to be in the second movie. It wouldn't surprise me if he's not, because initially my thought was he wouldn't be in the second Godzilla movie. But I feel more confident he'd be in the second movie than he will be in the Kong vs. Godzilla movie, because I believe the Kong vs. Godzilla movie, they're going to try their best to do a fan service, and they're going to do it Kong vs. Godzilla and no interference from an outside judge or somebody running into the ring with a chair. So, if you will. So, all right. So on to some other questions here. Let me just see. Give me a moment, people watching the video, as I scroll down here. Okay, so Latino Fire wants to know, and this is another question that's come up a lot, but I'll entertain it because it's been a while since I've been doing videos. Do you think it's possible for Legendary to do a crossover with Pacific Rim and Godzilla? I do think there's still a possibility of that. They're going to have to get very creative with the writing. They'll have to get very creative because the timelines don't match. It'll have to involve time travel, which I think if they do that, they'll have to tell that story from the Pacific Rim end of things. I'm going to say not likely, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say 50-50, which is a little bit stronger. The reason I say 50-50 is because we are getting a sequel to Pacific Rim. It is a kaiju movie. They are developing a monsterverse. They've recently had a huge writers panel, probably coming up with ideas for future movies. I'm sure they have movies planned going down a couple of years. Obviously, the success of all their kaiju monster movies really depends on whether or not we ever see those come to light. So I'm not going to rule out a Pacific Rim Godzilla crossover. I mean, there probably will be some continuity issues, but we've seen other movies succeed with continuity issues. X-Men Days of Future Past is a prime example of that. So I think there is a good chance we'll get one, but if we didn't, it wouldn't surprise me. I would say just keep your eyes open for little hints and little Easter eggs, especially in the next Pacific Rim movie. If they're going to do something with Pacific Rim, I would think we're going to get an Easter egg or some sort of hint of it in the next Pacific Rim movie. So I would say keep your eye out for that. So we're going to move on to our next question here. And this one is probably going to be the last one. This comes from the Colonel Clink. I think the Chinese market may be more of a consideration than the American one for both Legendary and Toho, as it seems for many producers now. Going forward, how do you see this manifesting itself over the next few years? Or maybe kaiju movies don't really fit into this category. It's funny. When China bought out Legendary, I got extremely concerned for the future of the Godzilla movies because, number one, they were in charge. So if they wanted to scrap the idea, they were more than entitled. Number two, China and Japan don't have the greatest of relationships. And they never have, not for a very long time. So the question was raised as to whether or not Toho would we even want Godzilla to be under the control of a movie production company that's owned by China, and B, whether China would want to promote a movie based on a very popular Japanese character. That doesn't seem to be an issue right now. And the other thing is, and I guess it's because money. In the end, it's all about money. Money heals all wounds, I guess. And then you take into consideration Thomas Tull, if nothing else, is still on the project of the MonsterVerse, even though he's not with Legendary anymore. He's still overseeing the MonsterVerse and still playing producer. So in terms of how this is going to manifest over the next year, I think obviously performance is key. I think China will be heavily marketed in these movies. It wouldn't surprise me if, even though they're filming in Atlanta, if we see a lot of scenes take place in China, or at least they go there, or that becomes the focal point for a major scene. We see this happening in Transformers, so it's not unlikely that we would see it in a Godzilla movie. I would say he's fairly popular in China. I mean, they did film, as far as the memory can tell me, at least one scene out of China from a Godzilla movie. That was Godzilla vs. Destroyer. The opening scene, he was in China. So, but yeah, that was my concern in the beginning. It's not so much a concern now. It doesn't seem to be an issue. They seem to be going forward. They seem to be planning things as if it's going to be long term. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think, but I do think what you're saying in terms of them catering or marketing towards China is definitely more than likely to happen, I would say. So, but anyway, guys, that's it for this Q&A. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments of this video. I'll be more than happy to answer them on the next Q&A video, which will probably be tomorrow, if there are enough questions. At least I like to answer at least 4 per video. And yes, put them in the comment section. We'll talk some more about this stuff. And once again, tomorrow night will be the Twitch live podcast. Click to the link in the description, okay, to follow me on Twitch so you can get notified when I go live. We do it Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Also, if you're new, welcome to E.T.N. If you like what you saw here, please click the subscribe button, click thumbs up, and definitely come and join the conversations. I definitely like to interact with my viewers, whether it's in the comment section or during the podcast. And that's it. That's it, guys. All right. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. You can follow E.T.N on Facebook, Twitch, or Twitter, or join the Nation Facebook page. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on your way out.